Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome. I
Hi.
am looking at my computer. Hey, Molly, so happy to have you here today. All right, guys, we are live. I think we are live on all of the platforms. Yay! All right.
Great.
Hello, happy Thursday. Can you believe it's Thursday again? Like, I don't know if it's just me, but every time I turn around, it's Thursday.
I know. I know.
Weeks just fly. Uh, anyway, oh my goodness, I'm so looking forward to this conversation today and really excited to have a chat with Molly Ostrander. All right, so as a little bit of an intro, I want to welcome everyone to Live with Leslie, and I'm Leslie Vitel, business strategist and mentor specifically for integrative and functional medicine and nutrition professionals. And I'm so happy you're here with me today. So, here's the deal. If your clients are saying they're doing all the right things, they're eating clean, they're working out, they're doing their supplements, but still complaining of being bloated, tired, exhausted, and just wondering why it's not working anymore, you are in for a treat. You're definitely in the right place today. This is
Yes,
definitely for you, right, Molly?
that's correct.
So, what we're going to talk about today is why those old wellness habits just they're not cutting it anymore, especially for women in their 40s and 50s. And we're also going to be digging in deep and sharing what to do instead that actually works. So, I'll be joined by the wonderful and brilliant, I might add, Molly Ostrander. I'm really excited to have her with me, registered dietitian, former professional chef, and
Hmm.
functional nutrition expert who helps women 40 plus ditch the discomfort, rebalance hormones, and feel like themselves again. So I am delighted to have you, Molly. For our audience who may know you, but some people may not, give us a little background on how you ended up where you are.
Sure. So I have Crohn's disease. I've had it since I was very young. And when I was cooking, it was like, okay, this is all, can only take me so far. I didn't feel like my career was really supporting my love for helping people. So that's where we are today. I went back to school to become a dietitian and very quickly found integrative and functional nutrition, got certified by IFNA. And the good part about this is that not only have I been able to help women with gut health and help women to understand a new diagnosis like IBD or something like that, help women to understand more about cooking and how we kind of put meals together, grocery shopping, that kind of thing. But now I'm able to give the opportunity to people who are getting older. And I think that it's so important because, in my practice over and over again, it was like, the person who was younger would get better and that would be it. But the people who were, a touch older, once you hit that 40 years old, it just became very difficult to sort through that. So I really dug into that. And now that I'm getting my doctorate from MUIH in integrative nutrition, I do feel really strongly about this topic.
Oh, good. Oh my God. And I'm delighted. So how is your program going, by the way? And
Oh,
how
it's
far
going
in
great.
are you? Okay, you're loving it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How far in are you?
So I'm going part time. I do one class per trimester. I'm about, I would say, just over a third of the way through.
Okay, fabulous. I've heard great things about that
That's good.
program. Oh, so excited for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about being in that program kind of spurred this perhaps renewed interest in this particular area?
The metabolic disease specifically, so metabolic disease being diabetes or cardiovascular disease or insulin resistance, even when we look at fatty liver, non alcoholic fatty liver, all of those things, women have a lower risk of, like, we have a lower incidence rate, right? We're not going to get them as easily as men until we hit the age of 45. And then our risk starts to look more and more like the risk of men. And that's because of estrogen. Estrogen is a protective hormone against a lot of this stuff, which is why women don't have, the same kind of disease profile as young men. And so I think young women and young men. So when I started to look more into that, it was really shocking to me because as someone who sought out perimenopausal hormone replacement and also just looking, to my clients and talking to my clients about it, no one says anything to us about that, right? No one says not only should your body change because your hormones are fluctuating, you should not expect that the things that you do will work anymore, but you have a higher disease risk. So you can't do the things that you always did if you want to maintain the same state of health.
Okay. Yeah. So essentially it's about that reduction in estrogen. Is that safe to say?
For disease risk, yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
then, testosterone can certainly also be protective of osteoporosis and dementia. So, a degree of testosterone, we don't want to supercharge ourselves
Right.
necessarily. And progesterone, as that goes down, and in perimenopause, it's more like the roller coaster. It's spiking and it's crashing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the symptoms are going to be more significant there. Once they flatline, we're still going to have that same kind of thing, but in menopause, it's more predictable. Progesterone is responsible for anxiety and that sleep, that good sleep that we get, and just the overall more focus. It's that lush hair growth and nails. And when all those things start to go, we think, oh, it's because I'm doing something wrong. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm drying up to be put out to pasture. And I would argue that this generation of people your age and my age and, a little younger and a little older are not going to stand for that same mentality.
Yeah. So interesting. So, little off the cuff question.
Mm,
Um, you let me know if you even want to go here, but I'm just curious, like, does just taking and I know you're not a physician, a
sure.
prescriber, but do you see women, taking HRT as a mechanism or a means to try to lower their disease risk?
I do. And if you follow the work of Dr. Mary Claire Harver, who's really the major thought leader on this topic, in my opinion, you'll see that she, as a physician, and many others are starting to say that menopausal hormone replacement is the gold standard for treating menopause. Now, in clinic, in the clinical setting, you can see that menopausal disorder has an ICD-10 code, and that's how you get the estrogen covered or whatever. But the fact that it's called menopausal disorder, to me, signifies how archaic the treatment is, right? Like, no kidding.
Oh my God. Like, yeah, it's a disorder. That's kind of crazy.
But
I
yes, there's a huge role even in perimenopause, and I don't think it's talked about enough. You want to find a provider, the right provider. Sometimes people turn to places like MIDI Health Online or Alloy Online, but talking to someone, is it appropriate for me? Like even just that progesterone if you're feeling that anxiety or restlessness or insomnia
okay,
in
gotcha.
perimenopause. Yeah.
So, all right. So, in terms of why women in their 40s feel like their body has suddenly stopped cooperating, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes. So once our hormones start fluctuating, that triggers a imbalance in our hypothalamus, pituitary, ovarian axis, and our follicular, the whole follicular situation is not happening as well as it could. So when, the eggs are more abnormal and there are fewer eggs, then the messaging isn't as strong. The hormones start to, get crazy, and that triggers a pro-inflammatory state. So like literally perimenopause and menopause are low grade inflammatory states. And if we don't address that inflammation, then we are going to retain water. We are going to not see the same results that we would with the same things. And, there are also these heightened periods of stress at this age, right? Your kids are getting older. Maybe they're going to college. Maybe they're moving out. Your parents are getting older. Maybe you're having to, think more about how to help them, and you're at maybe the peak of your career, so that's involved as well. And nobody really thinks that stress, it's hard to say, oh, stress really does something to me, but it's very clear that stress plays a huge role in not only inflammation but also how our body responds to exercise. So if we are in a state of fight or flight, not only of course are we going to have worse bowel movements because if we're holding in or if we're just having that, let out diarrhea kind of thing.
Mhm.
But then also, you think about with all of these different things put together. If I'm in a state of stress and I go do a HIIT workout every single day and never give my body a chance because I hate my body, right? Because I want it to look like it did when I was 20 and I want it to respond as quickly as it did. That's not helping anything. And of course, I'm not going to get the same results.
Oh, that's so interesting. Oh, I can't hear you. Is it
Oh, can you hear
Oh,
me?
you're back. You're back. You're back. Yay.
Okay.
I missed what you just said, though. Oh,
Oh,
you're kind of going, or wait, hang on. I think you're good now. Okay, cool. I think
okay.
yeah.
You want me to repeat what I just said?
Would ya?
Okay, totally. So, when we are in this inflammatory state, we're going to retain more water. We are going to be more stressed out. We have a higher level of stress with children and parents. And when we're in that stressful state and we go and try to do a HIIT workout 7 days a week because we hate our body, because we want it to look like it did, because we want it to respond as quickly as it does, as it used to, then we're not going to get the same benefits. We're not going to get the same results that we used to get. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again.
I love that.
So when when we're continually trying to beat our body into submission to shrink ourselves, right? To fit into those genes. I
Yep.
think that there's just so much more out there. Like our blood sugar, that's why CGMs are used a lot more as we get older too, as like a fun tool. Now, a lot can be said about the appropriateness and it depends on the person, everything, interpret this with nuance. But I think, it's like if all of these systems are starting to break down and respond to food and environmental triggers and, your hormones are different, so everything is different, then why would we expect to get those results? We have to modify those workouts to support the nervous system and calm things down and give ourselves the opportunity to really embrace getting stronger and embrace getting wiser. And of course, being healthy, but in a way that it still allows us to love ourselves and enjoy life.
So I'm loving where this conversation is going. Um, I would love, again, kind of off the cuff from what we originally have planned, but I just love to get your take on how do we upregulate our parasympathetic nervous system, you know? And I will just preface this by saying, for me personally, I have such a higher level of awareness, um, just for a variety of reasons. But I'll just say I got an aura ring. What an
Hmm.
eye opener in so many ways.
Oh,
Sleep,
yeah.
oh my gosh, heart rate variability, I mean, all these different things. And getting myself into that restorative state. I was very happy yesterday. I got like gold star from, from the ring, the AI where it's like, oh, you had an hour of restorative time yesterday. That's way more than usual.
Yeah.
So I find myself trying to figure out how can I get more?
Hmm.
I try to like take deep breaths, I work out, I exercise, and I'm in this age group obviously. So I'm just curious.
Yeah,
Any hacks that you can share?
sure. Absolutely. So I set a timer every day for 2 o'clock and I put one hand on my chest and one hand on my abdomen.
Okay.
And you really just, and you feel your belly fill up and you feel your belly deflate as you take those breaths. And you do it a couple times and being in tune with the heartbeat and the abdomen moving in and out really just kind of relaxes everything and brings everything down. So that's one way to do it, even in the middle of the day.
Okay.
Um, I
And
think
more
things,
diaphragmatic breathing, right?
yes, yes,
Versus I think I probably am a little bit of a shallow breather, unless
same.
okay. Yeah, so I'm increasing my awareness around that, like really trying to, yeah, take deeper breaths. Okay, love that. Set the alarm.
Yeah, and do it for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long thing, but just enough to like remind your body that you're
Right.
not going out to fight a woolly mammoth.
Okay, got it. I love
Taking a bath. I love the Epsom salt bath. You'll get lots of minerals in there and you get to calm down. It's a quiet time. It's a
that.
safe place where you can kind of listen to something restorative.
Mhm.
5 minutes of meditation in the morning to set your brain up for that.
Okay.
And then also, I think there's something to be said for talking to yourself. So when I start to feel like my thoughts are getting out of control, I say, I've named my brain Rebecca. And I say, well, Rebecca, that's not very helpful. And it's like, okay, because I'm in charge, right? Like my brain can do the things, but I know that ultimately it is really up to me.
Love that.
Yeah.
Um, and our audience today, I would love if you guys have any additional hacks that you would like to share.
Yes.
Feel free. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Um,
Another thing that's important with what you're talking about here, parasympathetic, is when we're eating. The first phase of digestion is the cephalic phase where we're smelling the food and we're seeing the food. Maybe we're preparing it in a perfect world, right? And I think that we skip that phase. Like, you grab something out of the fridge and eat it over the sink while you're doing something else. And so to
yep.
really embrace the preparation and the smell and the sights of the food and taking, a breath or two before you start to eat reminds your body that, it is safe to digest this food. We don't have to divert all of our energy to the brain to continue to, run on the hamster wheel. We can
Right.
bring that energy to our intestines and to our esophagus and stomach and
Okay.
that is going to help because another thing that estrogen does is it slows down how quickly food moves. So the motility is
Mm,
slower. And so the time from mouth to bowel movement is going to be significantly longer as you get older. So when something is going really slow, it has more chance to create gas. It has more chance to, not ideally be formed into the bowel movement that we would like to see. And so when we focus on the act of food, chewing the food, smelling the food, it also gives us a head start because the saliva is more prevalent and we're chewing a little longer. And those things are going to help with digestion the whole way down.
okay. Really a great tip. Going back to something that you said earlier, you were talking about, kind of beating ourselves up with just persistent, intense workouts, like you
Mhm.
use the hit as an example. So, can you clarify that a little bit for our audience? Um,
Yes.
like obviously a hit workout is okay, but I think what you're saying is just not every day, right?
That's correct. So HIIT would be like the high intensity where your heart rate is really pumping, and those are going to be proven by research to be the most effective at reshaping your body composition. So if
Okay.
you would like to bring some of the weight that's around your abdomen and put it in your muscles and
Yep.
distribute it more around your body, not necessarily, lose weight because we want to be strong and we want to be, you know, we want to take up space to an extent, right?
Absolutely.
Um, I think 1 or 2 times a week in research, even 1 time a week, it kind of builds up and also it lasts longer. So you're getting benefits, even if you're not doing it every day, as long as you're doing it regularly. Now, other parts of our perfect workout week would be strength training so
Okay.
that we can break down bone and build it back up so that when we do fall, number one, we have the muscles that we can get back up, but we also have the bones that aren't going to break. And then also strength training is really good for being able to pick up your grandkids and being able to get a cup out of the, tall cabinet when you're older and more health span, as Mark Hyman always talks about, right? So we have our lifespan, and then the period of how long we're healthy in America is very short compared to the lifespan. So whatever we can do to build up the muscles and the bones is going to be ideal. Even wearing a weighted vest around the house can help to break down those bones. So while you're doing the dishes or something to keep things strong. And then zone 2 cardio is helpful too because it's good. It's supportive of your cardiovascular system, but also it can really help your nervous system in a
Ah,
way like, yes, yoga, of course, or Pilates. Those are going to be our classic examples. But something else would be walking after dinner, walking with your family, taking the dog for a walk. anything like that is going to help digestion. It's going to be good for your heart. It's going to get blood pumping to all your extremities, and really just kind of the whole thing together is a complementary package.
Okay, love that. Yeah, I noticed like this week for me, I am getting a lot of zone 2. So,
Hmm.
and is there is what is the definition of zone 2? Just for our
So
people.
it's your heart rate is in a certain
It's a
rate.
certain level and
Yeah,
it's based on your age, right?
exactly. And it's one step up from resting. So
Okay.
for a longer period of time. So we would go for like a 30-minute walk, kind of like we're late.
Okay.
So a brisk walk, that's going to get you
Yep.
there. Maybe a very light jog could get you there.
Okay.
And so back in the 80s and 90s, we used to think that zone two, for hours every day. And so
Yes.
you can see how there's space for everything. And of course, we want to do yoga and Pilates can be strength training.
Yeah.
Lifting heavy weights would be ideal at least once a week, but they're also relaxing to the nervous system. So anything that works for you. And I think it's so important now with everybody having an opinion, and the loudest, most vibrant, maybe controversial opinion is going to get the most attention. So
Yes.
we have these clients coming to us like, well, I know that I have to do this extreme thing every single day,
Hmm.
or I'm never going to get to my goal. And that's just not true. But it's up to us to understand why we're making the recommendations, and then ask them, like, well, what do you like to do? Because if someone thinks that 75 hard is the only way to achieve their goals, they're not going to, but they hate it. They're not going to complete the 75 days. And that feeling of a failure builds up to the point where you really lose that self efficacy.
Mm. Yeah. Punishing oneself with exercise, not going to work in the long run. That's for sure. So, speaking of which, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see women making when they're trying to, for example, fix their gut issues on their own?
So I think anyone that comes to you who is in perimenopause or menopause has tried or is trying an extreme restriction of some kind. So whether it's that they saw that they shouldn't eat seed oils or FODMAPs or fried foods or red meat, and they have this incredibly restrictive diet where then that's only 5 things left that they like, so they only eat those 5 things, and they're gaining weight and they don't understand why,
Mhm.
or their stomach still hurts and they don't understand why. Not only are we robbing our gut microbiome of the richness and diversity that different fibers and different proteins and all the other things tend to support. So as we eat different colors and all of that, each little thing is activating a different microbe and making a different microbe more prolific and happy in our intestines. But then also, you know, our quality of life is, like, I can't say that enough during this time.
Yeah.
This is the best time. You don't care as much about what other people think. You are having more of an established career. You're not just like in the trenches of having a 1-year old or whatever it is. And so to then say, well, I can only eat 3 things because that's what Joe Rogan says, I just think is the number one mistake is restriction. Because even if things, so let's say you ate a lot of fried foods and you know that fried foods aren't going to support your goals, then find some other foods that maybe you've never had and bring them in. Try some different proteins, start making turkey burgers, or make your own chicken nuggets or whatever it is that brings you joy, but in a way that's like air fried and kind of manipulated and paired with all those colorful produce, so that you can really enjoy things. And if you can't tolerate fiber, then a low fiber diet isn't the answer. The answer is to really work on that microbiome with a professional, as I'm sure many
Mm.
people watching this are aware. So that's number one. Then the second really biggest thing is going to be the schedule that maybe doesn't support your goals. So yes, there are certain things that you have to do in the day, and you can't change those. But when your neighbor says, oh, do you want to come to this picnic and bring a thing that you then have to spend time grocery shopping for and making, and
Yeah.
you feel bad, so you say yes, that's out. If you don't want to do it, I think this is the time where we get to say, oh, I'm so sorry, unfortunately, I won't be able to make it, but I hope you have a wonderful time. We don't have to make up like a huge thing, which then we have to hide from the neighbor. But I do think that, that's a really good example of all the times that you're asked, do you want to go here? Do you want to go here? And I think a lot of times too, like there's your spouse's family, there's like demands there. And, I think there's a limit of time that you can say, okay, I'm going to do A, B, and C, but this week D, I'm going to bow out of the fourth activity, for example, right? So learning how to stand up for yourself and saying, in order for me to be the best wife or be the best mother or be the best friend or daughter or whatever it is, I need that 45 minutes to go do a workout or
Mhm.
to sit in silence or to clean the bathroom or whatever it is that is just making you crazy, then take that time and feel good about it. The other thing is the internet and scrolling, like doom scrolling. I think they're scrolling with purpose. And I think that there's like, reward kind of things. So maybe you get on a treadmill and you're doing your zone two and that's when you scroll. But the amount of time that gets stolen by these things, activities that we no longer even consider before we do them, we
Mm.
can we can divert all that energy into something else. We can divert that time into some food preparation or, setting up a grocery pickup so that tomorrow at 6 o'clock, we're not at the drive through and saying again, like, oh, I did it again. I can't believe it. Like do an audit of your time and see
Oh,
where you're really
so
spending
good.
it. Yeah.
So good.
And it's okay to do fun things and be mindless and check
Yeah.
out. I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't, but I'm
Yeah.
also saying you do have time. You just have to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we'd all find some things in our in our time audit that, if we're being honest, probably aren't serving us in the best way, right? I love that. That's a really good tip.
And then the last mistake that I see people making is that they don't love themselves. It's we're not accepting that our body is not supposed to be the same anymore. We're not accepting that we have to do things differently. And when we don't do that, then you can't force a body that you don't like to behave a way that you want it to behave.
Mhm.
So understanding that your gut is changing because these fluctuating hormones are messing with the overgrowth and good bacteria in your small and large intestine. They're messing with your gut lining. So estrogen, progesterone, protective to the gut lining. So as those decline, we get more leaky gut by
Mhm.
default. Your digestive enzymes are going down as you get older, so you're not going to be able to digest things as well. And maybe you do need a little support, if appropriate for you. Um, and then your body, like, it's going to be a little harder to build muscle. It is going to be a little harder to
Mhm.
hydrate. Maybe you can't chug water the way you used to anymore. So it's more of a sip or it's warmer water instead of that ice cold water. But, trying to force yourself to just stick. Oh my gosh, that's literally my timer to deep breathe. um,
Well, we could do it. Right.
Forcing yourself to do something to become someone that maybe you aren't. I think the goal is joy and supporting yourself. Like start putting yourself at the top of your priority list instead of not even on it at all.
Oh, so good. So a lot of things. And one thing I was going to mention in when you were talking about being overly restrictive, and like basically, at the end of the day, you've got like five foods that are okay to eat.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know where I read this, but maybe it was multiple places that like eating disorders are on the rise
Hmm.
in this somewhat older population, right? A population of women where you wouldn't otherwise expect that. You think eating disorders, you think, you know, teenager, 20s, but so I wonder if that is part of it, like just trying to eat so healthy,
Hmm.
or, restricting out of fear, that
Right.
maybe those are contributing variables to that
Yeah.
problem.
Well, and orthorexia, right, which is an eating disorder based on needing everything to be perfect. I
Right.
think the vulnerable population, and we're all vulnerable, honestly, but if someone is maybe older and they're hearing, oh, give us your social security number, for example, and we'll give you this great thing, then who's to say that they're not hearing, oh, you can't eat anything that has canola oil in it, or you're going to have inflammation and it's going to be bad for your heart. And so then that person, maybe has a very limited budget, and so there goes the majority of foods that they can afford. And
Mm,
so that's a problem.
mm,
I mean, we can choose to believe what we want to believe, but we
right,
still have to look at that research and help our clients to understand
right.
what's appropriate for them.
Where do you feel like I guess food sensitivities fit into this picture?
So, like I said, estrogen, progesterone really involved in the health and strength of the gut barrier, or the lining cells of the intestines, which are held together by a little glue. And that glue gets weaker as we get older. So, particles like toxins and mycotoxins and food and allergens, instead of going out with the bowel movement, they actually end up leaking out of the gut, leaky gut. We always have intestinal permeability. We want particles to go into
Mhm.
the liver and the lipoproteins and all the vitamins and minerals. But what we don't want is for the toxins and other things. Like, I think about it like this: so let's say a whole kernel of corn ends up outside of your gut lining instead of inside of it, right? You can visualize that. Well,
Again,
your immune system says this is the flu virus, and it puts that little flag on it that says that kill this guy. He's an invader. We don't want him here. So just like if you had a splinter or if you had the flu, your immune system will react to that and get rid of it because it's not supposed to be there. But then
right?
next time you eat corn, your body says, no, no, we know this guy and he's an enemy. So that's how food sensitivities are really developed. And
Okay.
because we have increased intestinal permeability as we get older, it's more common in this population.
Mhm.
But another thing is when we're stressed out, and when we're not necessarily when our gut isn't necessarily in great repair, like our probiotic bacteria in our colon is lower and more overgrowth bacteria are in our small intestine, that also makes things, it increases the sensitivity of our small intestine. So that feeling, like you can feel gas in there more. You can feel more when you are full or when you have to make a bowel movement, and
Mhm.
you can feel some more pain because it makes it hypersensitive. Visceral hypersensitivity is what it's called. So we even just the increased sensation.
Okay. So, from a clinical standpoint, you being a clinician helping people in this age group with a lot of gut issues, is,
Mhm.
food sensitivity testing something that you pull out of your toolbox pretty frequently, or
It is
no?
in my toolbox, but
Okay.
food sensitivity testing is the number one test that you have to be careful of. If someone has even a hint of disordered eating, we're not doing it. If someone has even a hint of food insecurity, we're not doing it.
Mhm.
If someone can't cook, it's not appropriate for them because, it's a mistake we all make at the beginning of our careers. But if somebody can't make their food and avoid something like nitrates and understand what nitrates are, the only test I'll use is the MRT.
Okay.
But the if we can't like I can't if I can't explain to someone what they're supposed to avoid and why, then they are going to feel terrible and they're going to feel like they're failing the whole time, and they're not going to get better even if they do things as close to perfect as they can, because they're so stressed out and because they are just like in this state of chaos that nervous system is activated. So,
Interesting.
um, testing for me, I really like to use the GI map or the gut zoomer. I think that those are nice because it
Mhm.
gives us more of a roadmap of how to go about
Mhm.
treating the dysbiosis. The Dutch test can also be really helpful in this population because sometimes it's not about necessarily your level of estrogen, but how you're metabolizing it. And that's the kind of thing that we can help with, like supporting different pathways.
Okay.
Can be really helpful there. So those are probably the top two that I use, but I also like micronutrient testing because some people come to me on 20 different supplements and they're afraid to not take them. So in order to, explain to them like, well, here's what your body needs, then
Mhm.
then we'll take them off them for a few weeks and test and see what things look like so that they
Okay.
have an idea of what their body needs.
I love that. I think that's really solid, a solid path forward. So not over testing and certainly being careful with food sensitivities. So Molly, you've lived this yourself. You mentioned very earlier in our conversation that you yourself, you were diagnosed with Crohn's as a child.
Hmm.
How old did you say you were?
14.
14. Okay. So what worked for you before that doesn't work for you now? I'd love for you to kind of shine some light on, maybe your own personal experience in that regard.
Yeah. So when I was in remission with Crohn's and I started my internship, I would still all through school have IBS symptoms. And when one of my preceptors ended up being an integrative IFNA certified practitioner, she really brought me through that first protocol of, like for in my case, H. pylori was the biggest problem. So eradicating that, getting the GI map. And I think like instantly, just like I see with my clients in the early 30s, things got better and it was easy to maintain.
Mhm.
But now, all of a sudden, it's like I woke up and I couldn't retain the muscle mass. I didn't have that spark. I didn't have energy, even though I had fixed that low vitamin D and that low iron. And I was, replacing them in a way that had worked. I had to look at it again, and say, okay, so is there a different form of vitamin D that I need to apply in this situation? Because with Crohn's, I have damage to my small intestine. So I'll always be somewhat deficient in vitamin D. But, I
Okay.
had to change the vitamins I was pairing the D with to get the maximum absorption. Before you can kind of get away with some of the cheaper stuff. And
Yeah.
now it's like all those blends that are optimized, if you need that nutrient, there's a reason that certain things are paired, like vitamin D and A and K. So I
Oh,
will do that now instead of just D and K.
oh, interesting.
Looking
So
at
A and K.
mhm,
Oh, okay.
for me, and not everybody needs
Yeah.
that. And of course, we would test, but
Sure.
I
Okay.
think also it was just like not only the exhaustion, but the sleep. And then my stomach started hurting again. I mean, I really did find
Mhm.
that I had to go through another protocol. This one was more kind of on the yeast spectrum,
Mhm.
and I just found myself needing that additional support and needing a longer protocol and also a longer course of probiotics. I don't do probiotics and the remove at the same time. I do probiotics afterward because there's so many symptoms if you do them
Okay.
both in my population anyway. And before it's like, oh, I'm fine. And I was fine forever. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, my body is requiring some additional massage. It's requiring some more support. And then I did seek out progesterone and a little testosterone replacement.
Okay.
And then as soon as my estrogen is clinically in a place where, it can be replaced and I feel comfortable doing it,
Mhm.
that will be something that I explore.
Okay. All right. So had to kind of rethink your
Yeah.
protocols, right?
Yeah, and I wanted it to stay the same, right? I didn't want to make
Of
changes either.
course. Of course. So basically, it sounds like you're kind of going through life, pretty much everything's good. And then until it wasn't, things started
Mhm.
to kind of go off the rails. I heard you say sleep, your stomach
Mhm.
was hurting.
Yeah.
Were those kind of the two main things that you were noticing?
That and just the loss of
And muscle.
vitality.
Oh,
Yeah, like
okay.
I
Vitality.
couldn't hold on to the body that I had created, it was just kind of slipping away from me. I didn't care about anything
Mm,
anymore, and it would have been very easy. And if this wasn't my profession, I think it would have taken me longer to make some corrections.
yeah.
But it would have been easy to just say, whatever, I'm
It's
married, doesn't
I'm
matter, I give up.
always, yeah. Okay. Oh,
But that's no way to live. And so
right.
that really hit me as well. Like I have a lot of things that I want to get done every day. And, getting your doctorate, even if you're taking one class, it requires a lot of you.
Gosh. Oh, it's it
So,
it's a lot. Yeah.
yeah. But in
So you
order to do those things, I have to take care of myself.
just kind of lost that drive, it sounds
Yeah.
like, right?
Yeah.
And
So building resilience.
oh, resilient, such a good word, right? Okay. So you went back and retooled and did
Mhm.
many of the things that we're talking about.
Yes.
And clearly you're back on track, feeling good again, and clear headed, motivated, vital, right?
Yes.
All the things.
Yeah.
Sleeping well,
Right.
in remission, I
Yeah.
hope. Okay, good, good, good. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
good to hear that. So, um, what do you have to say? Just, one more topic before we start to wrap up. How are gut issues and hormone changes, right? So, if you could just kind of summarize that, uh,
Hmm.
connected during, I guess, specifically perimenopause. If you could just kind of summarize that, because I know we've kind of sprinkled that topic in our conversation today,
Hmm.
but yeah, what do you want to say about that?
So fluctuating estrogen and progesterone levels
Yeah.
impact your digestive system and your microbiome. So they can cause you to retain water. They can
Okay.
slow down your gut motility, how fast food moves through your intestines.
Okay.
Slower movement means more fermentation,
Mm,
producing gas, more bloating, less satisfying bowel movements.
okay.
Um, and this is like a clinically proven in studies thing. I mean, not a ton of studies on aging women, but we are working on it. Now, so you have the digestive issues and you have the discomfort.
Mhm.
Estrogen and progesterone also keep the gut lining strong, keep those cells really tight together. And when
Okay.
those hormone levels drop, that intestinal barrier can weaken. We
Mhm.
always let some particles in and out, but that's where we start to develop food sensitivities because there's more things kind of leaking out that are
Mhm.
triggering inflammation, that are triggering food sensitivities. We're in a pro inflammatory state. Um,
Yes.
and we're not responding to hormones like insulin as well
Ah,
because of these changes. It's not just they go down, it's like they're going all over the place. And
okay.
so then we're starting to pack on the weight, then we're starting to feel even worse, and it is kind of a negative feedback loop too. Like, okay, well, now my ankles are swelling and my
And it
stomach is getting bigger and I don't understand why.
yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yeah,
Like,
yes, absolutely.
it's
And I
just
can't sleep, so I'm just laying here thinking about how much I hate my body. And we're not doing that anymore, okay? So we can focus on whole unprocessed foods that fight inflammation, and that doesn't mean like semi-prepared like assembly cooking. You can still totally do that. I think it's more looking at eating the rainbow, looking at the omega-3s in the seafood and shellfish, not skipping meals because we don't want to put our insulin and our glucose on a roller coaster as well. We want to keep
mm,
that as steady as possible. You can intermittent fast, but
oh,
once you
yeah,
start eating, keep it steady all throughout that eating period.
okay.
Because if you throw in, oh well, I'm not going to eat lunch today because I had a big breakfast, or I'm not going to eat lunch today because I don't have time, then your blood sugar's crashing out. You're even more tired than you already are,
Right.
and eventually, you're a lot likely to get that A1C and pre-diabetes, diabetes happening faster
Mm,
because we are losing the protective aspect of estrogen against these metabolic diseases. Um, Fear of food and restriction of food come hand in hand with weight that we suddenly are gaining or a body
mm,
that is suddenly not responding to how it used to. And that is not the answer either. So making sure that you're including, if your old foods don't work for you, working with a dietitian or including different foods.
okay,
And really the strategies to relax the nervous system. So chewing your food,
okay.
meditation, getting a variety of workouts, but it's it's not just one thing, right? It's all these other different things, plus the way you feel about them, plus your energy levels and your vitality levels that together make up the feeling of despair. And it's a quick slope. So once you get started going down it, it's a lot harder to come back up. So
Yeah.
we want to stop you in your tracks today and tell your clients, okay, well, let's meet you where you are and start
Yeah.
to bring in things you love. And with things that we love and things that make us happy and things we look forward to and time to do them, then we start to get better.
So, as a clinician, then, if we're seeing patients or clients who are struggling with this whole scenario, is that where you would start? I mean,
I would start with what you like to do.
okay. It sounds like you would start there and do kind of these, I don't know, simpler things
Yeah, it's like a reverse engineering.
before we do the testing. And like, can you kind of lay that out a little bit in a roadmap from a clinician
Yes.
standpoint?
Absolutely. So, depending on the package that the client is choosing, so I offer testing or no testing because I
Okay,
know that I can help
got
someone
it.
either way. If they are in a certain, like if it's a certain population, then we're doing a test. And I think, that's how I can easily help you. And that's how we can get the most of your investment as fast as possible. But for, the general population
Yeah.
of I just suddenly am bloated and I never used to be. First, we're going to look at what's a day of eating for you, because they can say, oh, well, I eat chicken and vegetables and this is happening. And then it turns out that in the morning it's a coffee, no breakfast, and then it's maybe a handful of nuts, or an apple, and then it's nothing until 3 o'clock, and then it's a bunch of cheese from the refrigerator while you're making dinner, and then treats after dinner, even if it's just like a bunch of other food,
Mhm.
and then you're going to sleep with a totally full stomach, having eaten like one meal in the day. So okay, well, how can we make it so that you can have some breakfast? Or if you want to do intermittent fasting, then explaining what that is and talking about how your blood sugar does impact your mood, your weight, your energy, and your chronic disease risk. So that's the first thing that we want to fix.
Okay.
And we were all taught in school, regardless of our training, how to keep blood sugar stable. So
Yep.
I think it's important to offer practical tips there. And then finding out, does this person like to cook? Do they like to work out? Are they doing workouts with the mentality that, oh, I always used to just eat one meal a day and run 5 miles,
Mhm.
and now I'm not losing any weight, so I can't lose weight. And like, well, okay, you can't lose weight like that. And why do we want to lose weight? Let's talk about maybe shifting the weight into muscle, from fat to muscle, or shifting it from your belly to other places where it can be better used, or getting the fat off the organs, and really working with how that can provide energy and longevity for you. And so reframing. So the roadmap would be meeting them where they're at,
Yep.
making a clinical assessment. Is testing going to get them the fastest benefit? Which in a lot of cases it is. So, do I want to look at the hormones? Do I want to look at the gut microbiome? Is nutrients really like a significant issue? Because more and more now, a lot of physicians are saying, I'm not going to do your vitamin D because you're fine and you'll get a bill. And they don't know how much the bill is. So the patient thinks, well, it's $200. And I mean, okay, well, if it's going to be $200, then let's check all of them, you know?
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I come back with generally. Like, all right, well, instead of just one test, let's get every single nutrient looked at, and then
Right.
you have a baseline, and we can look at how your body is using energy.
I love that. And we have or actually a question that came in through Instagram. And this person says, excellent and informative discussion. Yay. Thank you. Thanks to Molly.
Thanks for being
Any
here.
resources you find helpful to further our knowledge about this subject as an RD?
Honestly, the biggest most incredible thing that you can do is webinars. So full script through the academy. I'm in DIFM, so that practice group has great webinars all the time. So if you're in a DPG, that can really help you. Even like Microbiome Labs, Designs for Health. Like one of my professors sits on the board of Designs for Health, and he does make that known. It's not like it's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
clear that he has that bias. But that he's a doctorate level professor, and some of his lectures are included in our materials, our optional course materials. So think
Okay.
about that. Like their Biocidin has some incredible
Mm,
webinars, and I
okay.
think they're all free. Yeah, so
Amazing.
you can just log into the website, and they're on demand as well. You don't have to wait.
I really like that. And I think sometimes we forget,
Yeah,
like we've got like so many resources that
yeah,
it's almost overwhelming, right?
right.
So many of these companies, they offer amazing educational resources.
And you can search the library. So, like Dutch has this incredible podcast where they talk a lot about perimenopause and hormones and blood sugar and
Okay.
testosterone replacement and MRHT. I think just even listening to that, right? Like anything that interests you, there's a search bar on that website, and you can so like Microbiome Labs, you can search, and the webinar that will be best for you today will come up.
Okay. Okay. Love it. And you don't necessarily have to have an account with them. For the most part, it's right there, right?
Sometimes and sometimes not. I mean, I think a lot of diagnostic solutions laboratories, which who runs the GI map, for example, a lot of their a lot of their webinars are available to everyone. And I know Dutch has a whole basically academy that
Okay.
if you and all you need is an MPI number, and you can access all of that for free.
Okay. Amazing. Yeah, that sounds really good. Great comment and question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, and we have Patty, the Sugarland dietitian. Patty, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Um, okay. All right. So this is great. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience today? We kind of
Just remember that the loudest voice with the most controversial opinion is the voice that your client has heard.
okay.
So you can present them if you're a dietitian or even if you're not. Remember, research is still the gold standard. And then there are some controversial topics that don't have a lot of research. So communicating that and
Mhm.
saying, I can work with you if you want to incorporate versions of this, but health is an addition problem. It's not a subtraction problem. And as you get older, it's okay that you feel differently. You don't have to become a biohacker. You don't have to become a perfect person. You don't have to have an endless wellness to-do list every single day to get better. And I also encourage the use of AI. So, working with like ChatGPT, look at all the biohackers and create for me a to-do list that I can do in 5 minutes or less that has the top three, hardest hitting things for this particular condition. And then
Okay.
you can disseminate, and you can hit deep research if you want, but you can disseminate if it's appropriate or not. But I think it's a great starting point. And I also encourage my clients to, if they have a list of things that they're trying to sort through, prioritize, sometimes with the help of AI.
Oh, interesting. I love that. So lean into it instead of fighting it. Makes sense, right? I don't think it's going anywhere. So,
It'll make getting older easier. That's for sure.
right? Exactly. All right. All right, Molly, it has been a great pleasure. I want to thank you
Thanks.
so, so very much for spending time with us today. Oh my gosh,
Absolutely.
so enlightening. And I want to thank our audience for
Yes,
joining
thank
in
you.
on the conversation. Really appreciate your time. And I'm walking away with lots of great tips myself. So thank you for that. Okay, Molly, take
All right.
care.
You too.
Greatly appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week, same time. Okay? Take care for now. Bye.